Professional chefs of Reddit, what do us amateurs keep doing wrong? Sometimes you need to leave it alone. That steak, that piece of fish, that stock. Just because you're constantly moving doesn't mean you're improving your food. The veggies in your sauces and stuff, cook that crap first. Do not add raw onions to already simmering tomato sauce and expect it to taste good. Also, huge amounts of random spices make food taste bad. Learn what they are and where to use them. Wish some cookery program would do an episode or two just on herbs and spices. You see chefs using several in one recipe while I get nervous combining rosemary and thyme. Read the whole recipe before you touch anything, including the directions. Then get all the ingredients together and measured before anything touches heat. Chop vegetables, slice meat, mix spices. Cooking is so much easier when you do the prep first and then just worry about what's in the pan when the heat is on. What do you think the kitchen does all afternoon between lunch and dinner service? Get things together so the actual cooking is way faster and easier. Pretty much the definition of what's called mise en place, which means to get everything in order and in place. Prep and do everything first, then focus on the cooking. A knife steel isn't a sharpening stone. It doesn't do the same thing. Keep your fingertips behind your knuckles, your knife in front of your knuckles, and keep your blade on the cutting board. Your fingers will thank you. None of us have knives sharp enough to damage our fingertips. Don't just dump a load of salt and pepper into the mix at the last minute. Season every single thing. The veg, the meat, the sauce, and if you're unsure of how much to use, just keep adding in small pinches and taste it. I would add to this by warning people to know if any ingredients you are using are already salty and adjust accordingly. If you're wrapping something in prosciutto or adding parmesan to a pasta, hold back on the salt you use on the other elements. Brown is tasty, black is burnt. Racist. All that brown stuff on your pan after you brown some meat or veggies? Use it. That's called fond. It's freaking amazing and will make your sauces have way more depth. You can easily get it off the bottom of the pan with a little wine, which is called deglazing. Deglazing is always my favorite part of cooking. The vast majority of people think that the terms icing and frosting are interchangeable. This is not the case. Icing is made with sugar and liquid and is generally. There are a few exceptions, such as fondant, pourable, think pound cake and donuts. Frosting is made with sugar and fat, such as butter or shortening, and is generally fluffy and spreadable. Varieties of frosting include buttercream and cream cheese. I checked your history and realized you made this account just to correct people when they misuse these two terms. You really are one of a kind. Put a damp napkin or towel underneath your cutting board to keep it stable. You can wail on whatever you want, however hard you want, with the peace of mind that your cutting board won't go flying off the counter along with your food and sharp knife. Related, a falling knife has no handle. Just get out of the way. My brother is a chef at a Michelin 2-star and says things would be so much better as people added salt during the cooking process and not at the very beginning or at the very end. Not a chef, but I hate that whenever I cook at friends' places they seem to have the dullest knives imaginable. If I want to shred the onion I would use the shredder. Not a professional, but my 2C, learned roux, pronounced like roux, little flour, little fat. You can turn the bacon grease into tasty gravy, or use it to make a creamy cheese sauce for mac and cheese or potatoes or gratin. A good roux is the difference between chicken soup that is creamy and delicious, or just sad salty bird water. Don't use that freaking tub of country crock crap and call it butter. Use actual butter. Mise en place literally saves so much time and potential ruined dishes. Chop, dice, smash, portion, etc. everything before you start cooking. It will change your life. I would add, when you're baking, follow the recipe exactly. When it says 1 teaspoon, it means 1 teaspoon, not that looks like a teaspoon. Baking requires exact prep work, otherwise your finished product won't be right. Cooking is art. Baking is a science experiment. When you're making a sauce or stew or whatever, you can throw a bit of flair in and deviate from the recipe. Baking, on the other hand, has been pretty much solved in a lot of ways, and attempting to reinvent the wheel just gets you a crappy doughy wheel that doesn't hold its shape. Not a pro, but wash your dang rice. It's easy and it makes the rice so much better. If you burn your toast, no biggie. Rub the burnt sides of the toast together over the sink until the charred stuff is gone. Kinda like rubbing two bits of sandpaper together. Crap, I would have thought a professional chef would just make some more decent toast. Over sauteed garlic. Don't need to brown it. A minute in the pan with the onions is enough. Lower heat is also nice when frying garlic. If frying with onions, only add garlic at the last minute. Beware of the densities of different types of salt. For example, table salt is much denser than kosher salt because of how the grains pack together. It's easy to make something way too salty by not accounting for this. Use real wine when cooking. The rule of thumb is never cook with a wine you wouldn't be willing to drink. Many recipes call for wine and people use cooking wine from a grocery store. Don't be that person. Use real wine and drink the rest of the bottle with dinner. Also, makes for a really impressive date night. The converse of this rule is don't break out the good stuff. If you're cooking with wine that cost more than $15 a bottle, you're wasting it. Same goes with beer. That microbrewed hipster Weezer may be delicious, but the cooking process destroys everything that distinguishes it from mass-produced beer. Knives. Keep those suckers sharp. Get a stone and practice with it. It's not hard to learn. Get a hone. 2. Use it every time you use your knife. You don't need expensive knives either. A mid-range priced knife can be brought to the point of being able to shave with. Teflon pans. For Christ's sake, don't use metal utensils in it. I even see the big boys doing this from time to time. Have a Teflon pan at home that's scratched to crap? Ever stop to wonder where the Teflon that got scraped off went? You ate it. Garlic. My general rule of thumb is, the longer you cook something, the more garlic you add. Ever make an all-day simmering marinara or soup, and at supper time when you get to eat, you think, crap, I thought I put enough garlic in this, but now I can't even taste it. Salt, unlike its mate, pepper, it is not a flavor. It's a flavor enhancer. Load up with too much, you're fricked. It's true, we humans need salt to survive, but not in the frick ton quantities that will kill your food, and eventually kill you. Ever go to a high-end restaurant and notice that there's no salt shakers? For that matter, there's no pepper either, on your table? That, usually, means that an experienced pro cooked your meal, and that both you and him her understand that you're not going to have to frick around or tinker with your dish. 3 little words. Well, actually, the same word thrice. Taste, taste, taste. Making a long simmering stew or sauce. Taste that bee regularly. Dirty little secret, like that bouillabaisse or aioli at your favorite restaurant. You can bet at least 2, maybe more kitchen workers have had their fingers in it, tasting it to get it perfect for you. Don't be afraid to experiment and adjust recipes to your liking. Taste things as you go to adjust seasoning, salt, sugar, and acidity levels. Don't just be a robot following a recipe. Food is an art. But then you have the people on alrecipes.com who say, I know it called for 1 cup of milk but I don't have milk so I added tapioca pudding. When searing, you want your pan to be ripping hot to the point where the oil starts to smoke. Also, if you're finishing a cut of meat in a pan, it's always a good idea to add a bit of butter at the end and baste it. If I see one more person press down on a burger while it's on the grill, I'm flipping that grill over. Gordon Ramsay says add some freaking salt, you prick. Came here to say this. I'm not a chef, but I've worked in a couple kitchens before. I'm no pro at all, and I'm always telling my GF this. She always tells me my food tastes better than hers, all the time, but she's so stingy with the salt. I always tell her to double the amount of salt she uses. Season and keep tasting as you cook your dish. Cook rice with chicken broth instead of water. Makes it taste a lot better. When I was younger, my mother taught me how to make rice. Her version included draining it like pasta. The day I realized you could put herbs and spices and stock and chicken fat and sliced veggies and all that good stuff right in there with the rice was like the exact opposite of discovering that Santa wasn't real. Blew my mind. Pastry chef here. Use goddamn scales. It's so much easier and you won't lose count of how many cups of flour you've added. Plus measuring by volume with dry ingredients can be so inconsistent due to different scooping styles, a more aerated flour etc. Don't come running to me asking what happened with your baked goods when you've been measuring using cups. They use a dull knife. Dull knives cut like a dog chews, behave erratically, and are just plain dangerous. Yes, sharp objects may seem scary at first, but with proper form, technique, and some attention, you should never cut yourself. Not drying your meat before you sear it. Not a professional chef, but this advice is so basic, and so rarely followed, that it bears repeating. Pouring sauce on top of cooked pasta. Rather than cooking the pasta al dente then adding it to the saucepan itself with a small pad of butter and lightly mixing it together. This coats the pasta perfectly and doesn't leave you with uncooked chunks of noodles stuck together, or worse, cold pasta. Not a pro, but I've noticed a common mistake is not knowing your oils. Biggest mistake I see is people cooking with olive oil. It has a super low smoke point and the flavor breaks down pretty easy. I keep a few essentials and dabble in something more exotic if I come across it. High heat, searing, pan fry, coconut oil, peanut oil, bacon fat. Don't toss it. Keep the fat and filter it once it cools down a bit. Medium heat, eggs, vegetables, avocado oil, butter, the good stuff like Kerrygold. Cheap store brand has water in it. Low heat, drizzle over salads or steamed veggies, olive oil, pistachio oil, walnut oil, or anything with a strong flavor that you want to preserve. If you want to try some more exotic oil on the cheap, Trader Joe's has a great selection. I picked up a 3-pack of 12 ounces, each of walnut, pistachio, and hazelnut oil for $10 or so a while back that I love. Not professional, but I like to cook. When you boil something, pasta, rice, potatoes, etc., add seasoning. Start with salt, then experiment with other items. I use rosemary and garlic when I boil potatoes. To the water as soon as you turn the heat on, and not just a little bit. You should be able to notice that the water is salty if you taste it. 1. It's been said but I have to reiterate, taste your food before plating it for guests. 2. Don't put your nice cookware in the dishwasher. Wash them by hand and use barkeeper's friend. 3. Don't dispose of that bacon fat. Save it in a sealed container. I use bacon fat in a lot of dishes. 4. Clean up as you go. 5. Stop cutting stuff on your countertops, glass cutting boards, and those thin flexible sheets. 6. This one is personal taste, but I like to cut steaks and other cooked meats with the straight edge knives. The serrated ones just shred the meat. I like clean slices. I cringe when I see people saw a beautiful steak. You have been visited by the Wealth Rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.